You know, when you hear the word apocalypse, what jumps to mind? Four horsemen, plagues, crazy cosmic battles, probably a pretty dramatic, far-off end of the world, right? Well, most of that imagery comes from one single place, the very last book of the Bible, the book of Revelation. But what if we've been reading that map all wrong?
Okay, let's really get into this, because this one question, it changes absolutely everything. For literally 2,000 years, people have been arguing about whether Revelation is a prophecy of our future or a history of their past. Is it a sneak peek of what's still to come, or is it a commentary on what was happening at the very moment it was written?
So, to try and figure this out, theologians have come up with four main interpretive keys. You can think of them like different sets of glasses for reading the exact same text. There's the idealist, the preterist, the historicist, and the futurist. For our purposes, we're going to focus on the two most popular views, which you'll see stand in direct opposition to each other.
First up is the view you're probably most familiar with. I mean, this is the one that fuels all the blockbuster movies and the best-selling thriller novels. This is the futurist perspective.
The crucial point here for futurists is that they read Revelation as a literal, chronological prophecy. They believe that the vast majority of the book, we're talking the seals, the trumpets, the bowls of wrath, all of it, hasn't happened yet. It's a detailed preview of the final act of human history, just waiting to unfold.
And this chart, it lays out their framework perfectly. For a futurist, this book is basically a roadmap. It starts with this period of intense suffering called the tribulation, then it moves through a series of escalating judgments, and then, bam, it climaxes with the physical return of Jesus, ushering in this whole new eternal reality. From their perspective, it is all still to come.
All right, now let's grab a completely different key, one that turns that entire timeline right on its head. This is the preterist view.
Okay, so get this. Preterism argues that the apocalypse that John described has, for the most part, already happened. It wasn't about the end of the planet, but the end of an era, specifically the end of the entire Old Covenant world, which was symbolized by the catastrophic destruction of the Jerusalem temple by the Romans in the year 70.
Now, what's so fascinating is how preterists build their case. They basically argue that you don't need some secret decoder ring to understand Revelation. You just need to take the book's own language seriously. And when you look, the book is absolutely filled with words that scream urgency.
And this right here, this is their smoking gun. Over and over and over again, the text uses words that signal immediacy, words like soon, near, and quickly. The preterist argument is pretty simple. The author, John, was writing to real, first-century churches that were facing unimaginable persecution, and he was telling them that rescue and judgment were right around the corner. For them.
And this intense focus on timing, it brings us to the absolute heart of the conflict. This entire massive debate between these two viewpoints, it really boils down to how you define one simple word: soon.
So the futurist view argues that soon doesn't necessarily mean near in time, but that it will happen rapidly once it all kicks off. They'll also point to the concept of God's time, where 1,000 years is like a day to an eternal being. But the preterists counter that the message was for a human audience, for whom soon meant, well, soon. And they point to this amazing contrast. The prophet Daniel, hundreds of years earlier, was told to seal up his prophecy because the time was far off. John was explicitly told not to seal his because the time is near.
Now, just so we're covering all our bases, it's worth quickly mentioning the other two major lenses, which offer some really interesting non-literal interpretations.
First, you've got the idealist, or spiritual view. This one basically says, hey, forget the timelines altogether. For them, Revelation is a powerful allegory. It's not about the past or the future, but about the timeless, ongoing spiritual battle between good and evil that plays out in every single generation.
And then there's the historicist view. This one was actually huge among the Protestant reformers. It sees Revelation as a kind of symbolic map of all of church history, with prophecies being continuously fulfilled in major world events, from the fall of Rome all the way up to today.
So okay, we have all these different frameworks, these clashing timelines, but maybe the point isn't just about getting the when exactly right. Maybe it's more about understanding the who, the character of the one who's bringing everything to a close.
Because you might be wondering, why does any of this matter? Well, it matters a lot. Whether you believe judgment is still way out in the future or has largely already happened, it fundamentally shapes how you see the world and your place in it. It affects what you work for, what you hope for, and what you believe about justice.
To explore that idea, let's look at a totally different story Jesus told. There's this landowner, and he hires workers for his vineyard at the crack of dawn.
But then he hires more at 9 and more at noon, and get this, even more with only 1 hour left in the workday. But when evening comes, he pays every single worker a full day's wage.
Now, as you can imagine, the workers who'd been toiling all day under the hot sun were outraged. It wasn't fair. But the landowner's response just cuts through all of our human expectations about timelines and who deserves what. He asks, "Are you envious because I'm generous?" So maybe the ultimate question Revelation leaves us with isn't, when is the end, but something much deeper. Are we focused on the clock, trying to measure who deserves what? Or are we prepared for a final accounting that's based not on our timing, but on a kind of generosity that completely defies all our calculations?